All right. Hey, what is going on, Hustle Buddies? We are super excited for this little interview that we got going on. I've actually never personally seen an interview with Seller Snap. I don't know if you guys have done them in the past or not really, but I feel like we're sort of like on the cusp of newness. But Seller Snap is they're a repricer. It's actually who we personally have used. I think we've been with you guys for like 2 years almost.
Something like that, getting close.
It's been a while. We've been with you guys for a long time. And even before we had Hustle Buddies, I was telling all my Amazon friends, like, hey, you got to use Seller Snap. It's crazy. So now I do want to preface this for you guys joining, because Hustle Buddies has a lot of beginner sellers. I don't know necessarily, and Ian, maybe you can interject here, but I don't know if I would necessarily recommend this to a beginner. Like, this is a very powerful high-end software for repricing. Usually I recommend it for mid to large size sellers. But yes, I do want to preface it with that. I don't want someone coming in and they're like starting their Amazon journey with $100 and they're like, oh, I got to get Seller Snap. That's probably not the case. You should spend your $100 on your inventory.
Absolutely.
This is more of a large scale tool, but there's a wide variety of people within Hustle Buddies. So we want to do some more of these like advanced interviews and things like that for the larger sellers in the group. So Ian, can you tell us a little bit about like you and Seller Snap and all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Nate, thanks for having me here. We've worked with you guys for quite a long time, and a lot of people that come from this Hustle Buddies group. So we're super excited to have this opportunity to kind of speak directly to your group and everyone that's showing up to this live stream. And so a quick intro about myself. My name is Ian. I am the head of sales and customer success here at Seller Snap. So I work with customers and our team everywhere from, when you first reach out to Seller Snap and just getting to know the platform, all the way through your entire journey once you're on board, answering questions, talking strategy, talking support, and my team and I all work really hard in order to kind of try to give a really awesome service to our customers.
And I want to interrupt you right there. I'm so sorry. I do want to interrupt you right there, because I think a lot of companies say that, like, oh yeah, we're customer focused and we've got all this customer service. You guys don't understand. Seller Snap is a different level of customer service. I have never, not just in like the repricing world, I have never had any subscription in any aspect of my life that has taken care of me. Like, I mean, you guys are calling us all the time. I remember when we first started using you guys, we would get a call like, hey, did you get set up all right? Is there anything that we can do? Hey, we saw this. Like, you'd call us again. Oh, hey, we saw your products were selling like this. Have you thought about doing this? Or here's this other strategy we think. Like, you would call me with ways that you thought I could make more money. And they were actual, it wasn't just like a generic script. It was like, hey, I've been looking at your account. I saw your items are doing this. We should try this. What do you think about it? So yeah, like I want to interrupt there, because again, a lot of companies say that, but Seller Snap is ridiculous. Your customer service is insane.
that makes me feel so good. I had goosebumps just from those shout outs right there. And, we really appreciate it. And, that's part of, I think that's one of the big things about coming from the premium standpoint, for a lot larger sellers. It is really easy to start adding softwares to your tech stack and not really get anything else out of it, especially a real person on the other side. And we know that on the other side of our screens, there's Amazon sellers, everyone from that's, doing it from their garage to people that now have their own warehouses and everywhere in between. And so one of the biggest things, for us is to still try to maintain that one-on-one connection between us and our customers. As we grow, it's something that we're going to continue to work on, because we do know that we have a lot of Hustle Buddies coming our way as well. And so we're going to keep on doing our best to provide a really awesome service for you guys and everybody else. But just to go back a little bit more about myself, I've been with Seller Snap a little over 2 years. Worked in the tech space a lot before, and so again, my goal is to help sellers succeed using our platform, and hopefully tips and tricks from kind of beyond repricing. But again, like with Seller Snap, what makes us different from a lot of other, third-party solutions that you might have hooked into your system is that we are very, very focused on repricing, and that is our goal, to provide that excellent repricing service. And again, we do have some technical expertise outside of that range, but this is mainly when we're talking, this is the majority of our focus. And so moving into SellerSnap, like what is SellerSnap? So we are a repricer. We are an AI repricer with a focus on game theory. Really what that means is that we learn from game theory. And we have two main goals. One is to avoid price wars, and the second one is to get the buy box at the highest possible price. And so we take a variety of approaches to do this, but the main thing we do is we scan the competitive environment to understand the decisions that our competitors make based on the decisions that we make, and then we kind of take all that data that we collect in order to kind of apply the best strategy to the individual listings at that specific point in time.
Yep, I love that. I think a lot of repricers that are out there, and even there's repricers that I recommend for like a lower budget. Most of those are rule based. So it's like, if this happens, then do that. If the price goes lower than my buy box, then do that. SellerSnap, I mean, you touched on it, but for anyone who this went over your head, they're using AI game theory. This is not like if this happens, then do that. You're not setting like, if I lose the buy box by a penny, beat it by a penny. That's not a setting that you're like turning on. You're using like artificial intelligence to figure out what your competitors are doing. It's insane. There's even little settings where you can compete against Amazon, and you guys will try and figure out like, okay, is Amazon sharing the buy box? Under what circumstances are they doing that? And you'll adjust the prices. So, and that's one of the big reasons why, like I always tell people, don't worry about if Amazon is on the listing, because I'm fairly sure that I have a good shot of competing with them, especially if I'm using a good repricer. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, there's a couple of points that I want to touch on that you mentioned. Number one, in terms of finding like the best repricing strategy out there, I say this to every customer I talk to. There are millions of sellers out there in the world, and even more listings, right? And it'd be unfair to say that there's one size fits all solution to every single person out there, because that's just not the case. But there is an opportunity to give all these different solutions a try, depending on kind of where you're at in your Amazon journey, to see, what is the best fit for you, what is the best fit for your store. So, my suggestion is, whether it's SellerSnap or not, if you're not using a repricer, give it a shot. Start trying out different repricers and try to find that specific piece of the puzzle that's going to help you throughout your time with Amazon.
Yep, I love it. All right, so what would you say to the folks who, like, maybe they don't have any repricer, and whether or not they're going to move forward with something like SellerSnap, or if they go with one of the more budget-friendly options? Why do you think that people need repricers? What kind of benefits does that give people? Like, doesn't it just lower everyone's price?
Right. So there's a couple questions in there. Number one is, why do we need a repricer? And I think the main thing that we need to remember is that something like 80% of the sales on Amazon go through the buy box. And then that number goes even higher when we're talking about buying on mobile devices, which I know I do on a regular basis. I'm always on my phone or a tablet or something buying online. And so the reason why you want a repricer is you want to put yourself in the best position to sell, right? You can't have inventory just sitting stranded, not selling. You need to sell in order to generate revenue, generate cash flow, in order to do it again. And so a repricer will help put you in the most competitive positions in order to be in the buy box and hopefully capture those sales when a customer lands on that listing page.
Love it. Awesome. All right. So would you be willing to show us, I don't know if you can like share your screen, but could you sort of show us like what this actually looks like? If someone gets this and they're trying to get it like all set up, is it complicated? Are they going to have to go through a bunch of different menus and things like that? What does this sort of look like on the inside? Maybe we can show people what that screen looks like.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. And right before I do, I just want to highlight for anybody who has used a repricer out there, is something that Nate mentioned before, and that you'll hear, myself and the SellerSnap team mention every time that we talk about the platform, is that because we are an AI technology, there's no need to set up complex rules and conditions in order to get started repricing. All we need to get started is to put in a min, a max, and turn on repricing. It's really as easy as that. Of course, when you have a ton of listings, there might be a few extra steps that you have to do, but that's kind of a different project, and our team.
I love that. I think I was just talking we do coaching calls every Monday. So I was just talking to a student yesterday who they were using a different repricer, and like, oh yeah, I just downloaded, there's another content creator. It's like, I just downloaded this other content creator's guide for all of their settings for this repricer, and I'm good to go. And like, I had everything all right, and it took them, I don't know, maybe like a half hour to an hour to do all like if this happens, then beat it by a penny. If that happens, then ignore that. If this happens, then that. And that's a huge thing that we love about SellerSnap is it's just turn it on, just press go.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we find the most, and this happens because along with the AI, like, don't forget that SellerSnap does have, the rule-based settings like you might be used to with other repricers that you can use either in parallel or in addition to or instead of SellerSnap. Mm-hmm. And so I do this all the time with our customers too. It's really easy to find holes in repricing methodology. Yeah. And so especially if you're new to repricing or just want to try out a new strategy, it's super easy to, click the wrong thing, be confused about how something actually works, and you actually put yourself in a position where you're not going to be super competitive. And so, with the AI, again, we're just trying to take out that confusion, put your min and max in, turn on repricing, and get back to, the things that you need to get back to, whether that's sourcing, whether that's bookkeeping or managing your inventory, everything else in between. Hopefully you can spend a little bit less time on repricing and a little bit more time on everything else. All right, so can you see my screen? All right,
yeah, let's pull this up. All right, there we go.
So Nate, you are probably really familiar with everything I'm about to show you. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach to the platform and to what I'm going to show right now, because there are a lot of different data points that we can really dive into, and I can go on and on and on about data and strategy and all of that. But I think that just to answer your question, I'm going to show you how easy it is to just set up one SKU on SellerSnap. And so this right here, what we're looking at is the overview page. The overview page is just that. It's a macro level look at your store. You'll notice that sometimes you'll see things up in here, up at the top or throughout the platform that are highlighted in orange like this. These are actually premium features. And so once sellers kind of move to that level, it's a really cool. There's some really cool added value points that you can use to really dig into your store with extra filters, data, things like that. So I'm going to kind of skip over that, but everyone should know that exists. If you talk to anybody on SellerSnap, the majority of the time is spent on the listings page. And the listings page is, really where the magic happens. And so what you'll see is that at the top, we do have different aggregations of data. And the different aggregations of data are dependent on what we're viewing from the listing level. And so what we're gonna eventually look into is we're gonna look into two of the three ways that we can actually turn on a listing. The first way is directly into the listings table down here. The second way is through our edit listings window, and the third way, which I'm not going to show, is to do a CSV import, just because that's going to be a little bit more complicated for live streaming like this. And so you'll notice here that we do have. You can come straight in and drop in your min and max prices, right? And if you want to change it, you can go ahead, simply type in a new number, click apply, and that will happen for both mins and maxes. In addition, if you were to input your costs, for example, and make that change, then you could come in and set a markup on cost, for example. And you might say that I want 50% markup on my costs. And then from there, the system will then calculate your min price and max price if you were to change it in order to set that min and max price, taking into account any relevant fees for that specific item. And so it will make a little bit more sense when I show you. So I'm actually going to let's go find something that might be FBA and in stock so everyone can kind of relate to that. Again, I didn't mention this before, but this is a demo store. So often, our team plays around with it. We do a lot of testing on this store. So numbers can look funky. You might say, like, why does this guy have, negative 200% markup on cost? That's because we're playing around on it to make sure, just to make sure we're testing. But let's look at this. Let's look at this item in particular. You'll notice that we can put in all different kinds of data points. Your cost, any additional costs. A lot of sellers will use that for, their inbound postage, for example. And then you can put in your min, your max, and then manipulate your minimum markup on costs and your maximum markup on costs. And so what these things will do is, as you change it, you will be able to see that everything else that is affected by it is updated in green. And so basically what we're saying is that if I have 100% markup on an item that costs me $12.50, I need to make $12.50. And then what we'll do is we'll back into that and understand what your total cost is. We pull in your relevant fees. So this is your FBA fee, and then this is the Amazon fee. And you can see that there's a step because of this particular item, that it's 8% for anything less than $10, 15% anything greater than $10. We call that the reduced profit range. Unless you feel like you want to talk about that, Nate, we can ignore that for now. But basically, what we do is we back into what your total cost is, add in that minimum markup, and that's how we come up with your min price. And the reason why this is super helpful is because your Amazon fees are related to your selling costs, or your selling price, that it's kind of a circular equation, right? Because as my min price goes up, that would mean technically my Amazon fee would go up, which means my total cost goes up, which means my min price goes up. So that equation itself gives me a headache personally. So SellerSnap has built in that calculator in order to make that setting of your min and max price super easy.
Awesome. Real quick, let me pause you real fast to just double check to make sure my screen is frozen. Can you still see the stream all right? Or do I need to refresh this?
I can see the stream all right.
All right. Well, I guess keep going then. My screen's completely frozen, so I can't see comments or anything anymore. But go ahead, man.
All right. So once your mins and max prices are set up, all we need to do is flip on repricing. And that's it. And once we do that, the AI will start to get to work, learning the competitive environment and making its decision-making processes. One question that we get a lot is, how fast does the AI learn? And so this is a really good question. And the best way to answer this is to understand, how does the AI collect data? And so basically, in short, every time that there's a price change on a listing that we have an active offer on, SellerSnap gets a notification from Amazon every time that there's a price change. And so every time one of those notifications come in, it includes data points like the seller IDs of everyone on the listings, their listed price, their shipping price, their fulfillment, are they the buy box winner, are they prime, and a whole slew of data points. And then what we do is we take that data to make our decisions. And so in terms of how fast do we learn on competitive listings, we're constantly getting those price change notifications because prices are constantly moving. We get more data, and that means we're processing more data, meaning we're learning faster. On items where you are not getting as many notifications, we do see that there is a bit slow of a learning curve, but all in all, we can generally see the AI starting to get into touch. Oops, looks like we lost Nate on that one. All right, but I'll keep running. I'm sure Nate will be back. And so even when we don't have as many price notifications come in, the AI can also trigger its own notifications in order to start to collect kind of data on it on itself. And so that's kind of how the AI works in a nutshell. A couple of the other things that are really, really cool about repricing is that within the repricing settings, we can use the AI method, and then we can also use a series of other methods. So some sellers might say, because the AI is using a cooperative strategy, it is not necessarily competitive enough. And so what we have done is we've created the ability to add conditions. And so you can conditionally use specific rules in order to compete against your competitors in a certain way. So a couple of the popular rules, for example, is what Nate was talking about earlier about what happens when Amazon is on a listing. And so you can simply put in a seller ID, or in this case, Amazon, and you can see that the competitor with seller ID Amazon is competing for the buy box, and we'll tick that box. Maybe I want to do something different. Maybe I just want to simply follow Amazon and match their price, and or maybe I want to use a different method, such as win buy box, where this one can kind of get into price wars sometimes, depending on how aggressive you put your setting. But depending on the specific situation, you might want to kind of push the envelope a little bit because you want to move some items.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. Sorry about that. We had some connection difficulties. We should be good to go now. Yeah, that's fantastic. While we're sort of going through this, if you guys have any questions that you want to know about reprices or about Seller Snap, feel free to drop those in the comment section. I'll try not to have my computer freeze on me again. But yeah, let us know sort of what questions and stuff you have about that. So Ian, I had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Real quick, did you want me to, or were you finished with the screen share?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I'm finished. I can go ahead and stop sharing as well.
All right. So a couple questions for you. One, there is a program that I think you guys implemented. I'm hoping it's okay that I'm talking about this openly. I'm hoping it's not some sort of secret thing, but it did not exist back when I was first got on board with you guys. I think it just started maybe like 6 months ago. I'm not sure exactly. But I heard you guys have sort of like a intro program or a beginner program. I don't know the exact phrase for it, because again, it's pretty new. It didn't exist when I started. Right. But yeah, can you talk about that if you're allowed to?
No, there's no secrets here. We're actually really, really excited about this program. And yeah, you're right. It's called the Accelerator Program. And what the Accelerator Program is, it's our way of kind of investing in growing sellers. We know that when a new seller comes in or a growing seller comes into Amazon, they're going up against the Amazon sellers that have been doing it, since the beginning of 3P selling back in, I don't know, whatever it was, like 1999 or 2000 or whenever this started on Amazon. And those sellers that have kind of stayed in the game that long have created partnerships and created their own software solutions and technologies to give themselves a competitive advantage. And so what we have done is we've created this program called the Seller Snap Accelerator Program, where we give sellers our standard subscription, our $500 package, for a reduced rate of $250, and we guarantee that rate for up to 6 months. And really, the goal is to give sellers that are kind of in that middle space, who need that extra push with a little bit more of a premium technology, that stepping stone into that next level. And so we do have a couple of thresholds that we need to maintain when it comes to the Accelerator Program, which there are three in particular. One is we only reprice one Amazon store. Two is no more than 1,000 listings. And 3 is having made no more than $30,000 in any of the 3 months leading up to joining the program. And so because it is a really popular program and the idea is giving sellers the solution, the guidance in order to take that next step, we have had to be more and more particular about the applications that we accept to the program, because we have so much interest, and it's, again, we want to still provide that same level of service to these growing sellers that we do all of our other sellers. And because there's so much interest, we do have to pick and choose a little bit, unfortunately. But we hope that we can continue to have interest in this program and continue to expand it, allowing more and more sellers to, again, take that chance, take that leap with a more premium solution.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it worked out. It was really funny how it all worked out, because I didn't even know this existed. And I had been telling people, like, my personal opinion or advice for people is, don't get this if you're doing under 30,000. So then it was really funny when I heard about it, and it's like, if you're not doing over 30,000, here's this accelerator program. Like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's like exactly the same cutoff that I had, because usually that's when I would recommend people sort of upgrade, I guess, whatever repricer they're using once they're past that like $30,000 threshold. And I think that's a question that comes up a lot. Like, when should I start using a repricer? When is that important? Do you have any opinions on that? Do you want me to sort of share my thoughts?
I would love to hear your thoughts. I do have a couple of opinions on that, on when to start a repricer. The answer is now. Simple as that. If you don't have a repricing solution, go and find one. There's plenty of solutions out in the market. Depending on the different price points that even you're comfortable with. You said earlier in the show, like if you're just getting started, if Seller Snap's $500 a month, like, go put that $500 somewhere else. And I'm on board with that, because again, it's all about what is kind of my return on my investment, what is creating value for me in the moment. And so if you don't have a repricer, go out and find one. If you're kind of paralyzed and don't know where to start, people are gonna hate on me for saying this, but go start with the free version on Amazon while you're looking, because that is better than nothing. But be prepared for price wars. So find something that you can really sink yourself into, and because you really do get what you pay for. But something is better than nothing, but most things are better than the Amazon repricer.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like to tell people, because I have my own experience with multiple reprices. I've used you guys. I've used multiple other reprices. I've even turned off you guys to split test other repricers just so I could compare. Like, we were doing that about a year ago. I was just testing different ones to see how they compared. In my personal experience, and most of the people that we talk to, and there's always outliers. I don't want to say like this is a hard and fast rule, but on average, a repricer, in our experience, using no repricer versus using a repricer, on average, it got like 50 to 100% more sales. That's just our experience and a fair amount of the students we've worked with. So if you're selling $1,000 a month, you'll probably get bumped up to like $15,000 to $2,000 a month. And so with that in mind, you think, okay, how much money does this repricer cost? And if that holds true, if it boosts my sales by 50% or something, will that make enough money to cover this? So, and then it's just simple math and doing some tests, because I mean, Seller Snap, you guys have free trials, all the different repricing free trials. So you can always split test things like, okay, this is how much money I need to make in order for this to have a positive return on my investment. So if your repricer costs $250, test it out for 2 weeks. And if it makes you $250, sweet, you're good to go. There's your answer. You've made your return on your investment. So it's making you more money than it's costing you. And that just makes it a no-brainer. I would usually tell people like the $30,000 mark for the high-end version of Seller Snap. But now with your accelerator program, I mean, I would personally, my personal opinion is probably like 15 to 20,000 in sales per month is when someone can kind of look into that. But everyone's different. There's people that are doing like 5,000 a month that got it, and they jumped up and they're doing like 15,000 now. It's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, everyone's experience is a little bit different, but definitely test things out. Again, these free trials are awesome, and I wanted to do this now. I know, Ian, we rescheduled this a ton of times.
Yeah,
I wanted
definitely.
so badly to get this in prior to Black Friday, and we've got Black Friday coming up in just a couple days now. I wanted to get this in before then, because if there is ever a time where you should get a Repricer and test it, even just like using these free trials, it's for Black Friday. Like this is the single largest sales day of Amazon. So you need to turn on all the tools that you have available. And ideally you turn them on like now so that you can work out all the little kinks. You can talk to everything. You can figure everything out prior to Black Friday actually happening. So whatever you're doing, you should try something out now. If you don't have any Repricer, get one for the next 2 weeks. And if you're a consistent seller, if you're doing 10, 15, 20,000 a month, definitely try out Seller Snap for the next 2 weeks. Absolutely no questions asked. Awesome. All right. So I've seen a couple questions in chat. I don't know how much time you've got or how much we'll be able to answer. But I thought I'd go through a few of these if you're all right with that, Ian.
Let's go. Shoot.
So, and unfortunately, when I disconnected, all my previous chat was erased. So if you guys had questions from before, please retype them because I only see the last few. Someone was asking if this integrates with Inventory Lab at all. I know most of our members use Inventory Lab. So they wanted to know if there's some sort of integration or how best to utilize using this in conjunction with Inventory Lab.
That's a really great question. At the moment, we do not integrate with Inventory Labs, unfortunately. It's something that we're super interested in doing, and we're hoping to be in touch with them in the future. But it is something that does come up in the majority of the phone calls that I have with clients. And usually the main problem, the main question that comes up is like, I've never done anything else besides having something that integrated with Inventory Labs. And we completely understand that. And I think we are in such a unique place where we work with so many customers in this situation that understanding what the problem is to fix is developing a workflow. And we have done that. I believe we did that with you and Alicia. We've done that with countless other customers with the same problem, is help develop that workflow, doing that export from Inventory Labs, dropping it into maybe a template that was created by you or by our team or by somebody in order to drop that directly into Seller Snap. And although it's not as automatic as a lot of customers are used to, it's once you kind of get past that learning curve, get past those kinks, it starts to be pretty seamless. And again, you're still saving time on the other end, not creating complex rules, and then also having the really awesome data points to really get to know your store, that it ends up being not as big of an issue as a lot of people really think it is in the beginning. But again, our sellers, if you ever have any troubles with that workflow or anything's not working, our team is here to help, and we're always available to help knock out those tasks.
Yeah, and I mean that just goes back to what I was saying earlier, like with your guys' customer support. If you guys want to know how to do it, just jump on the phone with them. They're basically always available, and they will help you set up that workflow. I know, yeah, like you guys helped Alicia and I set it up. You've helped a lot of other hustle buddies that I know I've talked to set theirs up. We've helped other hustle buddies with our own because we tend to export into the CSV file and do all of that. And it does sound daunting at first, but I mean, Alicia does most of our repricing. It takes her maybe 2 minutes. Like export the CSV, put it all in the file, set the min-max, import the CSV file, and she's done. And it's not really that big of a task. We just do it once per batch. I'm completely fine personally doing that. That to me is not like a deal breaker by any means. It's not some huge, I can't believe they're not integrated. It takes me 2 minutes, maybe twice or every other week. So yeah, not a huge deal, but yeah, that's great. Let's see. We had a couple people posting, not so much questions, but Crystal was posting earlier. She just turned it on. I think she said last week, and her sales have doubled since then. So that's awesome, Crystal. Let me see. Accelerator program is fantastic. Love that the smaller sellers able to do it. Awesome. Let's see. Boom on YouTube is asking, and they were responding to someone else asking about repricers. They use a repricer called Aura, which is another one we have used in the past, and I definitely recommend it to smaller sellers. That's sort of like the entry level one that I usually recommend to everyone. The Seller Snap, it's more for larger sellers. Every seller has a tool. It's not like this tool is always better than that tool. It's what is your problem and where is the best solution for that. So how does Aura compare to Seller Snap? So Aura is still like the rule-based repricing. Like if this happens, then do that. Whereas Seller Snap is much more, at least for us, the main benefit to Seller Snap, it's two things. Their customer service is ridiculous. Not to say that Aura's customer service is bad, but Seller Snap's customer service is unbelievable. I have never been with any company in any aspect of my life that has been as like on top of the ball with their customer service as you guys. And then their artificial intelligence, how they figure out how other people are repricing, and you don't have to figure out like a new strategy. It just figures it out for you. It uses game theory. It uses all of that, and it just figures it out. We were talking to one of the other admins of Hustle Buddies, Cody, and we were just talking. We have a little admin chat. We were chatting. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I just turned this on." I think he jumped on with you guys maybe like, I don't know, 2 months ago.
Yeah, I remember.
So Cody was talking, and this is just in the group chat. He's like, "Oh my gosh, look at this!" And he's showing like it's going up and down. His price is going up and down with other people's repricers, and he can like watch it outsmart the other people's repricers. He's like, "I know that these people are using rule-based repricers because it's like, oh, if this happens, go up by a penny or down by a penny."
Right.
And he's like, "I'm watching this just like run laps around everybody else's repricer, and now I'm getting like 50% more profit for each sale, and I have the buy box, and everyone else is like sold out or left or something." He's like, "This is insane." So yeah, I know Cody Keppel loves it.
There's sorry to cut you off, but there's like two things that I really want to point out and that I really want to touch on. The first one is, I love hearing success stories about sellers, sellers that, turn on the repricer and things go through the roof. That is, that's why we do it. But it's really also important to, point out the fact that a repricer is just a tool in your Amazon toolbox, right? It's in the lightest way possible. If you are not sourcing the right items, you could have the best repricer in the world, and the results aren't going to be there for yourself. So, one, you can attribute some of the success to the repricer, but you really should attribute the success to yourself, finding the right tools for the right products that you have. Because again, not every single product on the planet is going to work with Seller Snap, and vice versa. So that's number one. Number two is I just wanted to touch on the difference between like a rule-based repricer and an AI repricer that we haven't talked about too much.
Yeah.
And hopefully I have a quick second to give a quick scenario.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I remember talking to Cody, and I remember reading his email about how excited he was about it. And I know the scenario, and this is a pretty common scenario that we see. So generally with rule-based repricers, what we see is that something that's really common that sellers use all the time is undercut my lowest competitor by a penny, right? So competitor A undercuts competitor B, who undercuts competitor A, and this goes back and forth until they drive down the price. And so, in a very short-term mindset, great for revenue. I'm getting sales, I'm generating cash flow, fantastic. But then when you kind of zoom out, you see how far down that prices actually went. And so the result in that is, again, 50%. You're getting about 50% of the buy box share when you're undercutting each other, but you're bottoming out the price. And then what Seller Snap, what we see is that we understand that this is happening. And we see that competitor is undercutting us by a penny, right? And so what the AI is going to do, it's going to capture the buy box and it's going to raise to your max price. And raises to that max price, again, already knowing that that competitor is going to move with us, right? Because we're learning that if we make one decision, the competitor is going to make this decision. So we make that jump to max, we bring them up with us, and then at that top end of our min-max range, that's where we're going to have kind of, I like to describe it as a mini price war, undercutting our competitor, letting them undercut us until the AI thinks that it gets too low. And then it's going to kind of reset to max or a portion of max, depending on how high that competitor actually came up with us. And then we restart that cycle. And so the result is still getting that 50% buy box share that we're getting before, but we're getting it at that higher price point. And so, again, the main difference is that instead of just following these if-then rules, the AI is really kind of thinking one step ahead. So if I make this decision, what decision do I already know my competitor will make? And then from there, we also have to do some testing and additional kind of data processing, collecting those different data points in order to sometimes switch strategies when maybe a competitor goes out of stock, new competitor comes on, things like that.
Yep, awesome. And yeah, that sort of goes with someone just typed it. Yeah. So this person was saying they're not only getting more total volume of sales, but their actual profit is increasing on a per item basis. Instead of making $10 on this item, maybe they're making $11, $12, $13, $15 because their price is now fluid. It's not just static, or it's not just undercutting my penny and things like that. It's the AI is figuring out how to capture the buy box and then how to raise the buy box. And it's just automatically doing all of that. So that's awesome. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay, so this is a good one. I can only show a portion of it. So this Facebook user was asking, their concern is if they can keep up with sending enough inventory to the fulfillment centers to benefit from like a 50 to 100% increase in sales. How can they know that they're ready to use something like Seller Snap? Do you have any responses for that?
I mean, that's something that, again, I work mostly with repricing in terms of sourcing and making sure that there's enough inventory in Amazon's fulfillment centers. It's something that I'm not necessarily an expert in, but what I would say is that you can always track your inventory levels on Seller Snap or on your inventory software, and if you see you're starting to blow through inventory way too fast because your Seller Snap is performing the way it does, you can always adjust your repricing method. You can adjust your minutes to max price to slow down those sales. And I know that that's a pain point that you want to stay consistent with your sales and you don't want to have no inventory in Amazon. But I think that in terms of the best advice would probably come from a guy like Nate that does this on a day-to-day basis in terms of that inventory management.
Yeah, what I would recommend, sorry, my program doesn't tell me people's names, so I just know you as Facebook user, but what I would recommend is to test it. I tell everyone, test every tool. This isn't specific to repricers. Everything we do, it's all about split testing and A/B testing. So do a test of this. Set up your account, try out the free trial, and if it works for you, awesome. And if not, just remember, this is sort of the analogy I use, and I was sort of piggybacking off of what Ian was saying. If we use the analogy like we're trying to build a tree house, okay, the first thing you need to do is buy the wood and buy the nails. That's your inventory. If you don't have enough money to buy your wood and buy your nails, then don't go buying the power tools to drill stuff in. Or don't go buying the forklift and the crane and all that stuff so you can build a ton. Now, when you get to those places, when you have plenty of wood and plenty of nails, okay, then get your power tools, then get your cranes, then get whatever else. So try the free trials out, but don't stress too much if you got to go back and buy more hammers and nails, or nails and wood. Let's see. Yeah, your tutorial pages are fantastic, by the way. This person is asking, so they've been running it for about 3 weeks. Is there anything else that you would recommend to fine tune a store, or any settings that someone should look at to see if they need to improve this at all?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. I would say first things first, that 3 month mark, or 3 weeks to a month mark, is a great place to do a little bit of evaluation, because you have it running for a little bit, and also you have seen, you have a little bit more data to compare that A/B test, right? Those first 4 weeks to the 4 weeks prior to moving it into Seller Snap. And so there's one main thing, and this is a little bit, maybe a little geeky, but it's my favorite. It's my favorite data point. And let me just pull it up in my demo store, and then I'll share my screen. And basically, the way that this data point works is this. It's called the total revenue diff column. And what this column does is it looks at your revenue in the current time period and then the previous time period, and it will tell you what is the dollar difference between those two time periods. And why it's so helpful is that it shows you the places where you can, where your items are doing really well. So you have a huge positive increase in rev, and also the places that have a negative increase in rev from the previous period. And generally, when I'm working with customers on this, what we do is we focus on those negative areas, because positive areas, you think something's going well, check it out, see if you need to order more inventory. That's not my problem right now. But in terms of that negative, those items with negative revenue or a negative revenue diff, we want to understand why. And often, I would say there's basically two main reasons, two easy fixes that that customers will sometimes miss. Is number one, quantity. My fulfillable quantity is 0. Why did I have a huge revenue drop in my store? Well, your best seller's out of stock, or your best seller's inbound and won't hit for another couple of weeks. That's a given. And so that is that's something that, depending on what your lead time is, how you order, how you source new items, it's either an easy fix or a non-easy fix. But that's something that a repricer can't help you on, but something that our platform can help you find. The second thing is where I'm not competitive on listings, and that is, and those are items where my buy box price is below my min. And I can't tell you how many times we find that, where someone's like, this item has sales rank through the roof. I'm really deep in it and it's not selling. Why isn't it selling? And then we go and we look. I say, look, your min price is $1 above your lowest competitor, above the buy box. And so at that point you need to make that decision, whether or not you move that min price down and you compete, or you wait it out. And again, that's not a decision that the repricer can make. It's a decision that the sellers will have to make for themselves. It's a business decision in that standpoint.
And a couple quick notes that I have about that from a user side and as a seller side. First, so a trick with Seller Snap that I like to do is I like to look at all of my inventory maybe like once a month, and I will sort it by buy box percentage. And if it says 0% of the buy box, then I'm going to go through each of those listings and I'm going to see if there's something that I see on my end that I can fix. Just like what Ian was saying, maybe my min price is like $1 or $2 above where everyone else is. And it's like, well, I'm going to have to bring that down if I want to sell this. And that brings me to my second point, in that sometimes it's totally fine to wait and save your inventory and let other people sell out and sell it for more later. Sometimes it's more important to just get the item out, get your money back, and go find something else to buy. There's already, you already sunk your cost into the product. So some people, I've seen this happen a couple times in Hustle Buddies, and my math brain always breaks a little bit and cries when I see people say that if they sold this item, they would sell it at a loss, so they're just gonna pull it back and donate it. The problem with that is that they already spent the money on the item. Let's just pretend you spent $10 on the item and you're trying to sell it for 20. Okay. And there's, I don't know, $7 of fees just to make the math easy. Okay. So you're trying to sell it for 20. You're like, oh, I'm going to make $3. And then the price drops to like $15. You're like, oh, shoot. Well, now I'm going to lose $2 if I sell this. So I might as well just pull it back and donate it. But that's not how the math works out. You already spent $10. You might as well get $8 back instead of losing all 10 of those dollars. So
right.
Sometimes it's fine to liquidate stuff. And we have multiple strategies in SellerSnap where, like, if something has been listed for like, I don't know, 180 days or 270 or something, we've got a couple different strategies going on, but we have a liquidation option where it's like, all right, let's just start bottoming stuff out. We have an extreme liquidation. It's like, okay, let's just take everything down. I don't care if I'm losing money anymore. I need this gone because it's killing me. So those are a couple little tips as a user side of things that I would recommend.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I do have this conversation quite frequently with customers where, and you know, this is to each their own, right? Where sellers have to kind of combat, what do I do on a listing level? And what do I do to support the single listing? And what do I do to support my entire store, my entire business? Yeah. It's a fact that not every single one of your listings is going to be a winner. And that's, I don't know if this is the truth, but I like to attribute, you know, the 80-20 rule. And because there is truth in that, yeah. where, you know, you are going to be surviving on just a small percentage relatively of items. And that's okay. And you're not the only one that's like that. And a lot of businesses work that way and are very, very successful. So I think this goes back to the thing that you were mentioning earlier. Always test, always try new stuff out. And if one thing doesn't work, you know, try to recoup as much money as possible, and then go try something else, because that's the only way to continue to push your business forward.
Yep. Awesome. All right. We're almost out of time. There was another question here that I do want to touch on because I see this all the time in Hustle Buddies and with my coaching students and everybody. So this person was saying that they're using a different repricer and they're getting a ton of repricing errors from Amazon. How does SellerSnap help battle that? Or do you help battle that? What's your advice for that? And that's a huge issue for all Amazon sellers right now.
Oh man, I knew this one was coming up. It was inevitable.
Yep.
All right. So high pricing errors, one of the banes of all of our existences. There are two main reasons for a high pricing error. The first one is price gouging, which is this weird kind of phenomenon in Amazon that they threw together at the beginning of the pandemic to stop people from overselling selling face masks and hand sanitizer at a really high rate. Understandable. But in my opinion, it got a little bit out of control. I think that it's a little too far for them to reel back, for Amazon to reel back, so we have to kind of live with it. So in terms of price gouging, SellerSnap has taken a couple of steps into help bringing items back when they're deactivated for price gouging. And so what do? If an item gets deactivated, we will make an API call to see the highest competitor on that listing and what price they're at. And then if we have that price, we'll revert to that price. If that price doesn't exist, or we revert to that price and doesn't reactivate the item, what SellerSnap is going to do is it's going to then systematically drop the price around every 6 minutes or so until that item comes back active or it hits the min. If it hits the min, then we're going to move back up to the max price and stay at that max price until the seller can, you know, adjust their pricing and bring it back through that fixed pricing alerts page. So that's number one. That's the first reason why items go inactive. The second reason is due to the Amazon price guard. And most people have no idea what I'm talking about when we talk about the Amazon price card. And then I'll explain it as the min and max you set in Amazon. And they're like, I've never set a min and max in Amazon. I don't know what you're talking about.
And this is different than your min and max in your Repricer. They
absolutely
purpose. They have nothing to do with each other. I explain this in almost every coaching call.
It's confusing, but it has a point. Everything has a point. And I'll tell you that in terms of the Amazon price card, I believe in it. And let me explain what it is, and then I'll explain why I believe in it. So the Amazon price card is a min and max that's set within your Seller Central account that will protect sellers against any third-party developer that you give access to Seller Central pricing something either too high or too low. And so the reason, let's take a step back and understand why does this exist. And this happened even way before Seller Snap was even created, was even founded, was that I think it was in the UK. In the UK marketplace, there was a repricer that accidentally repriced a bunch of items to a penny. And then I guess it was flagged by Amazon and all the sellers, and they were able to cancel some of the orders, but some of the orders did get through, and it incurred a loss on those listings, or on those orders. And so what Amazon did is that they said, all right, we need to put something in place to protect the sellers in case there's something like this that happens again. It's really important for me to say that we never, as Seller Snap, we never reprice outside of your min and max range. But I do always suggest that using that Amazon price card. Why? Because there's always a situation sellers are working quick, importing, exporting CSVs, all this kind of stuff. What if you import the wrong min price? There's a chance that you import a min price by accident that's too low. You would rather have Amazon deactivate that listing for a low pricing error than selling at a loss unintentionally. Exactly. So that's why we always suggest it. It's the same thing. Go wear your seatbelt. Yeah. just do it. You might not need it. You probably won't need it, but wear it. And so in terms of that, there's really a few things that we can do. Number one, when we're in Seller Snap and items are getting deactivated, go look at the items where repricing is turned on, because that's stuff that Seller Snap can affect. And number two, that you have stock, because sometimes you get pricing errors for things that you don't have quantity on, that you'll never replenish, and people say, oh, I have hundreds of items that are in pricing error, but they don't have stock. You'll eventually want to fix those, but let's focus on the things where we want to get unstranded and back to selling. So again, look at things that are repricing and in stock, and then go and fix those, align those items or those mins and maxes between Seller Central and Seller Snap. And the way that you might want to do that in order to be safe is give yourself a buffer on either end of your min and max price. So if your min is $10, maybe give yourself a buffer to $9. So when the buy box goes below min, you can drop your min price a little bit and not get a pricing error, because all these things are kind of interconnected. The last point of that question is there anything Seller Snap is doing about this part of high pricing errors? And the answer is yes. We're working on a solution. And it's still very much in progress. And I don't have all the details, so I'm not going to get too far into it. But it is going to be something along the lines of being able to help you manage those mins and max prices in Seller Central. We don't have an ETA on it. We're still very much in the planning stage. We're trying to develop the logic behind it, how it's going to work. But we're hoping to have that done sometime early next year, because we're not going to do any changes during Q4 because that
would be insane.
That would be insane, and our sellers will have our heads. But yeah, so it is something that we're working on, and I think that the main thing I can say is don't suffer in this alone. We know that this is a problem, and we know that some sellers get, especially our sellers, might get kind of paralyzed by this and not know where to start. I mean, going back to everything that I've said before, our team is here. Our team is here to help. We want to help, But we don't necessarily know that you're having an issue. Sellers know their stores better than anybody else, but use us, use our support channel to help figure out what you need to do and how to get those kinds of errors fixed and any other kind of problems that you're having, so you can get back to what you do best, sourcing and selling.
Exactly. Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate, so we were talking about Amazon's price guards, and that should always be the very first step. I'm only interjecting here because I see this question so much. So if you get a high pricing error or a low pricing error, the very first thing that you need to do is go into your Amazon account, go to the pricing dashboard, look at the pricing alerts, and then set your min and max in there. And I'm going to say again, this is completely separate than setting your min and max inside of SellerSnap or any other repricer. Setting it over here is telling SellerSnap or telling your repricer, I want you to sell it somewhere between this range. When you set your min and max in Amazon, it's telling Amazon, if it is outside of this range, please kill this listing. Please shut it down. All right. So that's the difference, and that should always be step one. That should usually solve like 50% of your pricing issues. I mean, there's always other outliers, but yeah, that's great. That's super exciting that you guys are kind of testing out some things for next year. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we've been here for about an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time, Ian. But we really appreciate you coming in. For those of you guys who are interested in grabbing this, there's a link over there. I think it's underneath Ian's head right now. So it's bit.ly/HB SellerSnap. Okay, if you guys are interested in signing up. And we've got a pretty awesome coupon code. I actually have never seen a coupon code offered for this, so I was pretty excited that we could grab one.
Absolutely.
If you use Hustle Buddies, I think it's in all caps. I don't know if it's cap sensitive, but Hustle Buddies in all caps, that'll get you 15% off, which on an item like this or a product like this, that's actually a lot of money. 15% is pretty great. So yeah, head over there if you're interested. And again, I'm going to reiterate, try this out. Just test it. If you're not sure, test it. See if it works for you. And if it doesn't, no worries. All right. But try it out, see what your numbers look like, see if your sales increase and all of that. For us, we love it. It's what I've personally used in our own business for about 2 years now. Most of the mods in Hustle Buddies use it. Most of the other large sellers I've talked into using it throughout the years. But yeah, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate you, Ian, coming in here. Yeah, I think that's all.
Perfect. Thank you, Nate. Thank you for having us. And we love talking to all the different Hustle Buddies that come and give us a try out. And we're hoping to see more in the future. And I know that you and I will be in touch through 2020 and 2021 and beyond.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. All right. Have a good one. We'll see you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.